All right, everybody, let's get started. Welcome. Hi. Welcome to Healthy Habits of a Successful Game Maker. Hopefully you're in the right place. My name is Lauren Scott, and I am a junior game systems designer at Hangar 13, a 2K studio. So a little about me first. I'm kind of in a unique position to give this talk because just a couple of years ago, actually less than 2 years ago, I was in the spot of a lot of you guys. I was a student at UC Santa Cruz studying computer science and economics. And right after school, I got an internship in a design position at Zynga. And about a year later, I landed at a new studio at 2K called Hangar 13, working on an upcoming next-gen PC and console title called Mafia 3. But how did that happen so quickly? How did I go from, diploma in hand, naive student just going out there and then landing at two of the biggest companies in our industry? One of the biggest things that led to that success was learning, practicing, and honing good game-making habits and kind of making that a priority above everything else, above breaking in, above kind of doing any other things. It was making sure that I became the best game maker that I could be and focusing on that. So I'm going to impart some of the things that I did to get to where I am and to become successful, and hopefully applying those things where you are now as students and people just starting in the industry will help you kind of attain a certain level, a similar level of success. So I kind of broke this up into three different parts. The first is kind of like concrete tips. These are kind of things that you could probably do in your seat right now or right when you get out of this talk, and just implement them in your daily lives. Conceptual is more like thought processes, habits that if you kind of integrate them in the way that you think can help you kind of get into a good mentality of a successful game maker. And finally, more philosophical, this is like long-term thinking, kind of ways to like frame your career and the way you make games. And another way to think of it is kind of short, mid, and long-term. So let's just go right into the concrete tips and habits. So one of the most important pieces, I think, is knowing your industry. And this may seem like a no-brainer, but it's something that's kind of skipped over a lot. So we're going to start out with a little pop quiz. I know, it's like spring break or whatever, and you shouldn't have to be doing finals and tests and stuff, but just like bear with me. This is important. But just think in your head if you know this. No need to shout anything out or anything. So this one is probably pretty easy. Hopefully you guys know this one. If you don't know him, then you should probably, yeah. But his name is Hideo Kojima. He was formerly the head of Konami until really recently, and he headed up the Metal Gear Solid team. This one is probably a little more difficult, but this is a really, really important guy, one of the founding members of the games industry. His name's Nolan Bushnell. He created Atari and also Chuck E. Cheese. If you think about it, it makes sense. He had all those, cabinets. He had to put them somewhere. So, guys like this are often looked over by us like students and people that are new to the industry because, we know the Jonathan Blows and we know the, Cliffy Bays, but, it's important to have the foundation of the history of our industry as well. This woman, I'd be surprised if anyone knew who this was, but her name is Carol Shaw. She is widely regarded as the first female game developer. She worked for Electronic Arts, I believe, and her most popular game was River Raid. And this guy, I doubt anybody knows who this guy is, but he was one of the lead inventors of the game cartridge and controller all the way back. I should have put the date, but so knowing these people it's really, really important to kind of see where we came from so that we know kind of where we're going. So shifting gears a little, how many people know what this is? This is, so Nothing from Atari was actually the first home video game console. This is actually the Magnavox Odyssey, the first commercial home video game console. So if you want to know where your Xboxes and PS4s came from, this is kind of it. And then the first digital game, a lot of people probably know this one, is Space War, 1962. But the point of all that is kind of to think about how many of those things you knew and how many you didn't. There's a lot of stuff out there to know. And it's important not just so that you know where you came from, but so that you can have interesting and informative dialogues with the people in your industry. And you can kind of create games on a foundation of the giants that came before you. And also knowing all the most current, people, publications, designers is really important to be able to continue those dialogues. You can just take a picture of this. You don't have to read all of these. But one really effective tool is actually Twitter, to just follow a bunch of developers follow tools, follow like anything you can think of, and then when you find your favorite developers, just follow the devs that they're following. You get a lot of news pushed at you, you get a lot of like game design tips, you can see the tools that they're working with and kind of follow suit. It's kind of an invaluable tool. And there are a lot of games history spaces if you kind of look in your local area. One of them is the Oakland Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment. You can just go there and check out games, old games and old consoles. And a lot of universities are doing archiving of old games to kind of check them out and, again, get that history. And also one website, mobygames.com, if you just type in the name of a game, it'll pop up all the producers, designers, artists, writers from that game, and you can just go check them out on Twitter, check out their portfolios and whatnot. So know your history. So the next piece is expanding your palate. This is a really important one too. I'm going to tell you the story of Jamie the chef. So Jamie the chef wanted to become the best chef ever and just make the most elaborate, beautiful culinary creations known to man and do really innovative stuff. But the problem was that Jamie only ever made scrambled eggs. And Jamie only ever ate scrambled eggs, and that was the only thing Jamie knew. So do you think that Jamie could ever make the thing on the right without ever having tasted anything different than scrambled eggs or tried anything else? Not really. And it's kind of the same with us. As game makers, you have to not just play the same things that you've always played and the things that are in your comfort zone. You have to go out there and try new things and play games that you never would have thought that you would have played. I'm not a really big, first-person shooter person. I wasn't when I was coming out of college or really ever. But, I've played them just to, understand the design behind them, and I've landed on one of the biggest first-person shooters in our industry, so it's important to have all of these kind of things that you can look back on in your arsenal. And it's also just really fun. And these are some good sources for games. Again, you can take a picture of this. itch.io/games has a really good set of really small kind of niche games that are made by 1-2 person teams. Different games also has a set of games that kind of have a different focus. And once you have you've expanded your palette, played a bunch of new and different games, everyone has, your favorite game, and you know it through and through, and you've played it as a consumer, but you can take that game that you know super well and go back and deconstruct it and look at it with a critical eye, look at it as, an artist or as a writer or as a designer, and deconstruct it through the lens of your discipline. And that'll kind of train your skill of seeing good things and seeing things that weren't done so well and picking those things out so that you can apply those in the work that you do. And also, in a few design interviews that I've been in, they ask you, pick a favorite game and deconstruct it. So it's a good skill to have. So once you have this arsenal of knowledge, it's time to kind of take it and start doing stuff with it. And the best things that you can do are not things that are in your comfort zone or things that, I can do that. It's things that scare you and things that worry you, and things that you think you can't do, because those are the things that you'll learn the most from. They're skills that you don't have yet, and there are things that will kind of agitate your way of making games and thinking about games. So one thing you can try is what's something that you'd love to do? Just think about it right now. Is it making a game, or is it, I don't know, writing a big interactive fiction thing? And just go do that. Just try it out. It doesn't matter if you fail. You'll learn from your failure. But just try things out that really worry you. On a similar note, putting yourself... So it's really easy to kind of just go through the motions of your classes and kind of do the things that are required of you day to day. But one thing that will really help kind of take you to the next level is doing things that require results, or ideally from a third party, like a game jam or research project. When I was in college, I did journalism just so that I would have, deadlines that I had to execute against and to produce work, just to get the feel for that. Because when you get into the industry, deadlines are going to be the norm, and producing is going to be the thing that makes you a valuable candidate. If you go to a school that has a game design program, odds are there are professors of game design and grad students of game design who are doing research projects that require some extra undergraduate help, and they're usually not advertised super well, but you can seek them out and just apply. Even if there's no formal application process, just email one of the grad students and be like, hey, can I do this? And same with journalism and game jams. You kind of have to go out there and find those opportunities, but they'll be invaluable because you'll already be kind of you'll know what it's like to produce results that aren't just, along the prescribed path of your major or whatever. And one skill that's important when you move from studio to studio, no matter where you go, there's probably going to be some in-house process or some tool that you need to learn. Even if your company that you end up at uses Unity, they may use Perforce or GitHub or something else that you don't know how to use. And instead of just, needing to, saying, I just need to learn all of these different tools, a better skill to kind of hone is just learning different workflows. Because if you get into the habit of learning how to onboard yourself to a new process or a new tool or whatever quickly, then you can kind of take that on no matter what you end up having to do. So here are some, you can try engines, version control stuff, wikis, whatever, and just, try some really small projects and it doesn't matter how obscure the tool is or how popular it is. I mean, trying to, onboard to a new, weird, obscure tool might actually be a really fun and good learning experience. Because a lot of in-house tools, no one's ever used them before. So having the skill of being able to ramp up on that quickly is good. And finally, the last big concrete piece is to get involved. If you have, having all the knowledge in the world isn't going to do you a thing if you can't show it to anyone, or if no one kind of knows who you are, you're not involved in your community. So look around your community, look online. The IGDA is the International Game Developers Association, and they kind of connect members. It's kind of a good networking organization. They organize local events and they have local chapters. There are a ton of academic conferences that are a bit more obscure, but if you're a student and you're in academia, then it could be cool to check out. As an undergraduate researcher, I had a bunch of opportunities to go to these, and I met a lot of developers that I still know today. So DIGRA is the Digital Games Research Association, and FDG is Foundation of Game Design. You can look all of these up too. And then commercial conferences are good for playing kind of the most cutting edge games and meeting a lot of the devs of those games. And there's a website that you can go to check more of them out. And then depending on where you are, there's usually at least one or two good pockets of kind of gaming community people that you can check out. Around here, there's one called Game Nest. And it's just a place where indie devs go to make stuff, but they also hold local events. And also, if there aren't any of these things around you, just putting your work out there to be seen and kind of inserting yourself into the community is another way to get involved. And I guess the last piece is to start. And this is the hardest thing probably for me to do ever, is like everyone has that thing in their head that they know they want to do. Every day you wake up and it's like this thing, it's like, oh, I'm so passionate about this, but, and then there's all these excuses, why not to do it, but you'll never get there and you'll never, do it if you don't start. So I actually put it on here 3 times because it's important. But also finishing, I don't know if you can read that, but finishing is just as important, because if you don't finish, then going through that process of starting and finishing and having something that you can kind of play around with at the end is really important. So going into more conceptual midterm thought process stuff, this is probably the most important one for me, one of the most important ones. But one of the easiest ways to get discouraged about something and not want to do it anymore is biting off more than you can chew. And a lot of students that I saw fall out of, the games program, or people that, fall out of the industry or whatever, is like you try to go for your magnum opus right away. And you're like, I'm going to start in Unity and I'm going to make the huge RPG that's in my head. But then you try it and then you fail horribly and you're just like, oh man, I can never do this. I can never be, Hideo Kojima or whatever. This sucks. I'm going to leave. But, as students and people kind of just starting out and honing our skills, it's important to start with small successes and small wins that can not only hone our skills, but also build our confidence. Like if you start out in World of Warcraft, you're not just going to go like poke Deathwing, that's not like what you want to do. Go, gather some wolf pelts, gain some experience, level up a little bit. So becoming comfortable with things going wrong. So things are not going to go smoothly. It's just the way that games work. You're never going to do the thing you need to do right the first time. But becoming comfortable with kind of the process of doing something and, oh, it didn't work out, and iterating, that is an important skill to hone and to learn early on, especially in a low-risk environment, relatively low risk, like school, where you can fail and learn from it instead of failing and losing millions of dollars, like in the actual industry. This is kind of a graph of my fear level over time, getting kind of nasty bugs in the industry. When you're working, you'll get assigned these like really bad, horrible bugs that you have to fix. And as a scripter, I have to deal with these a lot. When I first started at 2K, when I first started getting these bugs to fix, my fear level was like all the way up there. It was horrible. The first one I got, I was like, oh my god, the world's gonna end. I can't do this. I have no idea how to do this. What am I gonna do? But I was like, fine, I'll just take it on. And eventually, with every one that I did, my fear level dropped and dropped until now, when I get something, I'm just like, okay, cool, whatever, this is a problem. I need to find a solution. And conversely, if you think about kind of my proficiency dealing with these bugs, it was kind of the inverse. The more comfortable you get with kind of having to deal with really difficult and tough and terrible situations, the better you'll get at dealing with it, and the less you'll be kind of afraid of it. And the earlier you can do it, the better, because dealing with tough situations is something you'll have to deal with a lot. And sometimes you'll encounter problems that you don't quite know how to fix, and a good habit to get into is being able to present a solution to the person that you kind of need help with. And this was something that was also really difficult for me, because I'm really good at like pointing out things that are wrong and things that are bad, but I wasn't super good at being like, oh, this is broken, maybe we could do this to fix it, do this. And it's definitely a skill you have to hone. So something you can do is instead of just like making the observation that something in the game is broken, before you take it to, your lead or to someone who's more senior than you to help you, kind of think in your head and go through, okay, well, what are some potential solutions to this? How are ways that we could maybe fix this? And something that can kind of aid you in this is starting to think systematically about your issues and how to make games. Because games are these things that are made up of a bunch of disparate parts and pieces. They're things that have to fit together and things that have to be reused. And it's a lot better to think of systemic solutions for things than to kind of do a lot of like one-off, plugging holes when they open up. So the more often you can think of kind of a solution that can probably cascade and fit for a lot of different situations, the better. And you can kind of think about questions like this when you see something that's kind of not working and you can kind of see the issue branching off into a lot of different pieces. Think about, okay, well, what's a way that I can fix this that might apply to other problems as well. So games are obviously a creative medium. There are a lot of different opinions that go in, no matter what your discipline is, whether you're a designer or artist, animator, you're going to get into situations where you have to voice your opinion about how to do something or how something needs to be solved. And as relatively new people, your opinion is really, really valid and important. And if a company hires you, it's because they know that you have a fresh perspective and you have innovative thoughts and ideas. So be confident in what your point of view is and what you have to say, but also make sure that you don't stomp on other people's opinions, even if you think you're the best programmer in the world or whatever. That's probably not the hugest problem for us because we're just getting into things. But finding that balance and finding the solution that comes from, your perspective as a new, fresh eyes and the perspective of someone who's more senior than you has the experience, the answer is usually in between those two things. Hopefully, actually probably, when you're, just going through your career in the industry, you're going to find someone, hopefully more than one person, who's just like a rock star, like a god, and you meet them and you're like, holy crap, you inspire me and you're amazing and you're awesome. When you feel that, definitely like hold on to that person and try to keep them in your life and learn from them, because they're the ones that are going to push you to do bigger and better things, and they may open up doors for you that normally would have never opened up. And similarly, hold on to good friends. When I was doing work at school, I made this awesome game with some friends, and an industry god was like having lunch with us, and he was like, "Congratulations, you've just done the best thing you can do in the industry, which is make something awesome with some friends." And that just becomes more and more true as you go through the industry. Like, having good people around you will inspire you to make bigger and better things, and it'll also keep you sane. So finally, these are more of like the pie in the sky, long-term ways of thinking about stuff. So your first job in the industry, it's not going to be perfect. Hopefully it's not totally terrible, but it's the first job. Don't hold out too long, because even someone who has like 20 years of experience, the job that they get, it's not going to be perfect for them either. So just get in there and try to get something that aligns with your interests, because it is going to be a stepping stone for your career. Take the opportunity, whatever it is, as an opportunity to learn. No matter where you end up, you can learn something, whether it's good or bad, and just have fun with it. Always keep kind of a high-level perspective of where you want to go in your career. Just like in school, it's easy to get bogged down and just be tunnel vision, like, okay, I need to finish my classes. Like, in the industry, it's also easy to just, think about the next task that you have to do, no matter what you're doing. But just keeping that trajectory in mind is important, and always kind of realigning yourself, just like bringing your head above water and kind of looking at where you are and where you want to go. And stay confident. It's definitely super easy to get sidetracked by all the like flashy stuff going around, like especially being in Silicon Valley with all the startups and all the crazy like money flowing everywhere. But like we're all, artists here, and we all want to do cool stuff, and you have your individual plan for where you want to go, and just like stay confident in that and keep that, like kind of at the forefront of your mind, and try not to like recognize opportunities when you see them, but don't feel like you have to, chase whatever fad is going on. So it might feel like sometimes you have to just constantly be focusing on like, your coding or your, the tools that you need to learn, but definitely take the opportunity to free yourself from the computer and free yourself from, inside and kind of just doing like stuff that's directly related to games, because all pieces of knowledge that you'll learn throughout your entire life will apply to the games that you want to make. If the designers of Portal weren't fascinated by physics, then maybe Portal might have never been conceived of. If the people who made 80 Days didn't love history and writing, then they might not have ever come up with this game. Little Inferno is based on, some core tenets of philosophy, and just, going outside and taking a hike and looking at, the scenery can inspire things like this. So no matter what you love, like all of the, hobbies and interests that you have can all funnel into games if you want them to. And there's kind of this myth that there is this path that you can take to get into the industry, but I kind of use this as like cheesy. There's more than one way up the mountain metaphor. But also the guy who made this game, he just made something that he thought was cool. There was no kind of real path for him. He just made his own spot in the industry, and now he's like, one of the biggest names. So it's not like there's this, brick wall that you have to break through to get into the industry. That's not really what it's about, at least from my perspective. You're not really removed from the industry until you, ship a AAA title, or until you do something that just keeps you, or that, garners you that respect. It's kind of more like an amorphous thing that if you do something that's interesting to you, even if you put out a teeny tiny game that no one sees, or, you write for a publication that's kind of niche, but, has a following that really cares about it. Like, no matter what you do that is even tangential to games, the industry will kind of like assimilate around you and kind of envelop you. Because if you have that passion, that drive, and those skills, then it'll kind of come together, and you'll be part of it without even really knowing. So in the event that this is kind of one of your first GDC talks, I added some extras in here. You can just like take a picture. But these are kind of like books that are good, that a lot of people link, and a lot of them were beneficial to me, especially the Design of Everyday Things. That's like a seminal design book, and these slides will be available online too. And then these are just a few things to do that are good. Creating an online presence for yourself is awesome. Just putting your stuff up there, so you can just like hand someone a business card, or hand someone like a piece of paper with your link on it, being like, hey, check out my stuff, this is me. And yeah, that's everything. If anyone has any questions, there are mics right there. If I missed anything that you have any questions about. Whoa, thanks.
So I got a question.
Okay.
I am John Peter McGrath, who also happened to graduate from University of California, Santa Cruz.
Woo.
And right now it's like I'm in this pathway. So if you are if it's hard to get a job and you're deciding to go solo and or remote working, do you have any advice or like any tips or advice about going that route?
Yeah, thanks. So in case someone on the stream or whatever didn't hear it, it's about if you want to kind of strike out and instead of going the company route, go kind of independent. I think one really important thing is to still maintain kind of a community around you, because if you're at a company, you have all these people that have similar skills and like, you know, built-in community. But if you're on your own, it's easy to get lonely and also kind of start thinking like, oh, maybe what I'm doing isn't good enough, and it's a feedback loop that just gets worse and worse if you're alone. So like going to a co-working space like Game Nest or a local games community, or just, you know, working like outside of your home is probably a good thing.
Thanks.
No prob.
Hey, I'm Raj from University of Utah.
Hi.
And my question was, so I'm a programmer, and every time I show my portfolio to like a professional or someone in the industry, I always get feedback sometimes that's like great, but sometimes it's, oh, you've delved into too many different branches, and sometimes companies are looking for like a particular skill, and that's how they envision you coming into the company. Do you think it's better as a student to just try and get knowledge of everything and get a feel of everything, or try to just specialize in one thing and so that you can sell yourself on that specific skill?
Okay, so the question was specialization or like basically vertical or horizontal. And that was a big problem of mine too. Like in college I did economics and I did game design and I did computer science and like all kinds of stuff. But I think as a student it's important to stay curious and to follow the areas of knowledge that you're like really interested in and passionate about. And as far as applying to things, one thing that helped, like I got that feedback too a lot when I'd interview. It's like, oh, you like a lot of different stuff. You're kind of scattered. But if you're applying to something and it's like a certain specialization, just like tailor your resume or your portfolio or whatever you give them to that specific like application. And like it's good to have a lot of skills. It's good to have a lot of different perspectives. And specialization is kind of this weird thing. It's like as the games industry has gone on, you find, you know, like I think there was something like I don't know, like a Boulder 3D specialist or something. That's not real, but like stuff like that, you know, it's honing in because the studios are getting so huge that you need like these specialists. But it's always important to be well-rounded and know how to do lots of things. But yeah, I would just say when you apply to stuff, just tailor the stuff that you submit to that.
Cool, thanks.
Oh, I guess this side, yeah.
I'm Travis Listing from the UW Stout in Wisconsin. And I was wondering, when you were talking about getting the first job in the industry, how long do you feel like we should be expecting to like wait between graduation to getting into it?
So how long should you wait after graduation to get a job?
Well, not just like waiting, or like how long it might take.
How long it might take. So it's pretty different for everyone. For me, it took maybe like 3 months or something, and my first gig was an internship that turned into a full-time position. But I've had friends that get things right away, and they, like a lot of my friends, started interviewing in college, like a senior year of college, and got something right away. Some people didn't start looking until the end, and it took them maybe like a year. But I would say whatever is comfortable for you. There's no really like set kind of timeline. But for me, I was willing to stick it out for kind of as long as it took because I'm stubborn. But not everyone can wait super long. But and in the time that you're looking, also just keep like honing your skills and making sure that you stay current on everything. So yeah, whatever you're comfortable with, I would say.
Thank you.
Hi, I was wondering if you graduated with your master's or your bachelor's.
Bachelor's, double major bachelor's.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Sebastian from UC Berkeley. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about kind kind of like work-life balance, because I hear like all of these stories about like crunch time, you know, people are working like 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Like, one, is that like true what the game industry is really like? Or like, if so, how do you manage that and kind of like, you know, keep everything together?
Cool. So is crunch real? And if so, how do you manage it? Depends on which company you go to. When I was at Zynga, work-life balance was great. There was not really any crunch. Granted, I was on the new IP team, but still, like, it didn't seem like crunch was really that bad or anything. And I'm at Hangar 13 now, which is like a big AAA company, and we're working toward, you know, release now. And things get kind of hairy. So I would say like crunch definitely exists in the industry in some places, but you can definitely find places that don't crunch as much. And yeah, but definitely ask that, because company culture is something that like we as students, we just like want to get in and we want to get that first job. So we ask like, how much are you going to pay me? And what's my, you know, what am I going to be doing? But we like neglect to ask, what is the culture like of this company? So that's an important thing to ask. And as far as managing it, I mean, just like ask about, you know, how bad it is to kind of get a feel for like what it might be like when you get in. Also, just be upfront with your manager about what you're comfortable with, and just like keep the dialogue going. You definitely never want to just like push yourself and just assume that that's, you know, what you have to do. Like, you have, you know, you usually have resources that you can draw on to manage that. And I think we're out of time, but there should be a wrap-up room somewhere around here, and I'll just stick around, or wrap-up room over there. Yeah. Thanks for coming, everyone.